कोई बोल सकता है अराउंड कितने क्रॉस प्लेटफॉर्म लाइक SDKs अवेलेबल है डेवलप करने के लिए एंड्रॉयड पे, iOS और वो सब के लिए? यस
So I have also worked with cross platforms and multiple technologies. So Ionic is one of them. Then Cordova, PhoneGear,
like
Unity we have.
Yeah, so we can say that we have platefuls of SDKs for cross-platform. Now, what is the one thing that irritates you while you are developing for cross-platform? Like insane amount of insane APK sizes. Like even if you have just built a Hello World app and you'll build it to ship, and like it will be like 20 MBs. Like that is insane, right? And another thing, that amount of time it takes to start. It's like the one person has to like just sit and wait, like a plant is growing up, when it will grow I'll use it. Okay, so it's that kind of situation when you are using hybrid apps like which are typically based on web view. Okay, so there is one more solution that is developed by Facebook, and that is React Native. So that is pretty much interesting, right? Can someone elaborate that what React Native does that it makes it so fast compared to the other frameworks? No one? Yes?
For example, like if I'm on the home page, then menus and the slider is static, so I don't need to refresh it. So the content of the page will be directly so in easier language. In Android we have history or any, so we just need the data and then we can. So that doesn't change.
Just a second. Okay, so the guys said was pretty much right. So in layman terms, what we can say is you write some code in JSX, and what they do is they come like somehow using AppBridge, they render native components, whichever components are available. Okay, so if you want to do something custom for React Native, what you need to do is you need to go to some of your friend who is iOS and Android developer, tell them to write an API for you which you will wrap around React Native. Okay. Another thing that annoys me when using React Native is like I don't want to learn basic and such advanced computers. So okay. So apart from all that, let's start what we have gathered for building fantastic cross-platform apps with Flutter. So like when you hear the word cross-platform, your mind would be like, why would you make another thing like there are already plate full of apps, plate full of, just a second. Okay, there are already like so many options available out there to develop for hybrid frameworks and all that. And the one question which comes in your mind is, why would you do that? Like we didn't need any new framework to do the same thing that we have already been doing with so much popular things, and there are also the same. Some things are built by some giants like Apache, Adobe, and one of the most popular one right now is Ionic. Okay, so the main aim when the Flutter was being developed was like to build high performance and high fidelity apps for both iOS and Android using a single code base. And another thing which was beautiful about Flutter was it was designed from a designer's point of view. Like any designers in the house? No one? There is one. So like there is a huge gap between designer and programmer. Designer thinks in like, there is this gap, I'll give a drop shadow, and designer, and when someone is implementing is, this is how much padding I am giving, this is how much margin I am giving, let me add a shadow and give it some elevation. So both their brains work like pretty much differently. So they have also considered this thing. When designer give you like a UI, for example, it will have like all those lines to indicate how much margin is to be put and what should be the size in pixels. Okay, so as you can see, the main goal was to deliver high performance. Okay, so is anyone playing games? Anyone playing games on their Android phones, iOS? Okay, so do they lag? If well made, do they lag? And are they using internal rendering engines provided by Android or iOS? No, they come with their in-house rendering engine which renders all the thing and they run smoothly. Okay, so Flutter is basically kind of that thing, that it's made of C, C++ and Dart. Its rendering is based on Sika, which is a 2D rendering engine. So here we can see we have the architecture of Flutter. On the topmost layer you have material and Cupertino packages. Like material package cover the whole material guidelines given by Google, and Cupertino package contains all the human interaction guidelines given by Apple. Beneath it, that's widget, and beneath that, that's rendering, animation, gestures, all that stuff. And there is foundation, and after that, it's not foundation JS. Okay, it's their core libraries to draw some things, and the engine is based on Sika and Dart. So these are some examples. These are the apps that are made with Flutter. The second one is very interesting because it's actually there is actually a tutorial available on it, that how can you create this kind of UI using Flutter. And I think if you are going to take a whole day in it, you will be able to create something like this. And the other two apps are from kitchen sink app called Flutter Gallery. It's available on iOS and App Store. You can download it and try it if you want to. So like you think that I know that Flutter is sounding somewhat interesting. How should I get started with it? There are basically two simple steps. First step is a little bit lengthy. You just have to download Android Studio and install it. Another step is a 5-minute step. Like you need to clone the Flutter repo. You need to add the repo to your path. After that, adding the repo to your path, you need to run a command called Flutter Doctor. It will download all the dependencies and any stuff that you need to make Flutter run. After that, you just create your first Flutter app. Okay, so you cd into the directory, you directly run the app, and you are set for development in Flutter. So this is like, it's around just 5 minutes of time it takes to get you to start developing in Flutter. So let's see a demo of Flutter Gallery app. So this is a kitchen sink app made by the Flutter team. So as you can see, it is pretty much fluid. If I am doing transaction at some point, it's pretty quick. If I am going to tab example, the gestures are there. None of it seems to be lagging. Okay, so I think that this thing is pretty much fantastic. Like, instead of like, you don't need to have so much developing experience, and still you can get started with Flutter in just a single day. So another interesting thing about Flutter is Does anyone know about Fuchsia? If you want to develop apps for Fuchsia, you need to do it in Flutter instead of using Java and other things. So like if you want to continue in app development market, you need to learn Flutter. But there is still around 6 to 7 years of gap. Flutter is still currently still in alpha. It's being developed. More and more platforms are going to be supported. There are like most of the native things are covered in the library that they are providing. So another interesting thing is that many of you have developed on cross-platform, right? So what there is like sometimes what happens, you have Android, you don't know how the app is going to be looking on iOS. You need to go find someone else's iPhone to like मेरे को phone दे तेरा मेरे को app test करनी है, ठीक है? So उन्होंने ये problem simply solve कर दिया. You can change OS on the fly, like how the physics will work, how the transition will go. See, as you can see, I can use the default gesture which are available on iPhone. Even the scrolling physics, it's so you can pretty much taste everything which is being served to you on iOS on your Android phone or vice versa. Okay, so use or everything you write is a widget. Okay, now you must know what widgets can be. So a widget can be a structural element like button or menu. Like it can be a stylistic element like font, color scheme. It can be some aspect of layout. It can be some business logic that you have written. If suppose you are making a counter app, you are making a function to change state of your counter, so that is also a widget. Okay, so this is a simple example of widget. The language you use to code in Flutter is Dart. So it's simple class which is stateless widget. Then we'll override it, and then we'll enter widget build, which will return me a container with a child text. So what it will do is it will just on a place on your screen, it will just write hello world. So as I told you that all of the material guidelines is fully covered by material package and human interaction guideline by Cupertino package. Okay, so this is a hello world app. This is how much code you need to write to go through an hello world app. It's around like 20. Can you do that in any other platform? No answer. I am not going to continue unless someone answers. Flutter lets you build a hello world app using around 10 to 15 lines of code. That including blank lines and all stuff. So can you do that in any other cross platform? It's not possible, right? So is it not fantastic? ये रॉकेट तो नहीं छोड़े नहीं यार तुमने लोगों ने. You need to see it and compare to the existing solution. Then you will get to know that it is a far better solution than anything which is out there. And plus, it's still in alpha. Okay, so let's hope to get to a code demo. I have made a simple HTTP demo app for you guys, and then we'll see how is it functioning. Okay, how do I get started with Flutter? So this is a simple list view. I am calling a API. Is everyone with me? Yes. Okay, so this is a simple app. It's just a list view. And I'm calling an API, and everything is rendered. Everything is being rendered on real time. Another thing is that how many person do animation with Android, React Native, and iOS? Okay, so what is the ultimate FPS that we aim to achieve? 60 FPS, right? With Flutter, we can achieve 120 FPS. That is twice as fast as anything available. Okay. Another thing which is very awesome about Flutter is like it's not API level dependent, because what it does is renders each and every pixel in real time. Like all you are seeing on my screen is being rendered right now. Okay, so it doesn't matter that in 4.0 something was not there. They have made a widget for it, it is accessible universally. So that is another huge thing about Flutter. And another reason that many people use cross-platform apps to serve a consistent experience to all their customers. Okay. Because you cannot have the same UI that you have in Android and exactly the same thing in iOS. Okay. If you want to do, you need a huge dedicated team for it. Okay, so that's why some people opt for single code base app from which you can serve a consistent UI across many platforms and do it from a single code base, and you don't need a huge team. Okay, so that problem is also being solved by Flutter, and Flutter is very, we can say, somewhat UI oriented thing. Like if you teach your designer how to build a prototype on Flutter, he can probably start spinning up prototypes for you in a week. Okay, so what your work is left, you just have to take his prototype, take all the style elements, add your backend integration to it, and you are done. So what it is giving us as, like, everyone can use it. It's not like that you have to use a complicated IDE and dedicated tools to build an app. It's as easy as using just a simple text editor. Okay, so let's jump to the code. Hello? Is it working? It's working now? Okay. So let's get started with things. So is the code visible till the last sheet, or should I magnify it? Is it visible now? Now? Okay, so let's get started with things. So let me comment all the code and let's make a hello world app. First was I imported a material package, as I told you, from Flutter. I write a Roid main. In that I put a run app function, and inside of that I created my new material app. which is the title of which is HTTP, and I created a new instance for my home class. I created my home class, which is a stateless widget. Instead, I passed my widget build method, and that will return text, which is data. So it is pretty self-explanatory, right? So another thing that you must be thinking that there will be something like this on Cupertino package, right? Obviously, there must be something like this in Cupertino package. Okay, so there is something in Cupertino package. That is your task, that you have to find what the thing that you need to use for, instead of creating a material app to a Cupertino app. Another thing, it just reminded me of one more thing that React Native makes you do. So if the things are not compatible on both Android and iOS, you need to write separate codes for them. Like if something is not there on iOS and it is on Android, there needs to be a separate file which needs to be maintained, kept. Okay, so here you don't need to do that. Okay, so let's delete all our hello world things and get to the actual thing that I was going to demo. Okay, so the demo that I showed you, okay, was written under like 112 lines. The HTTP demo, including all HTTP stuffs, getting all the HTTP, sending a HTTP request and displaying all the things, adding UI elements. Okay, so let's go through that. So you can see I have imported some self-explanatory packages like async, HTTP, and convert to decode my JSON, and I created a stateful widget. So you must be wondering what is a stateful widget, and sometime I am writing stateless widget, right? So it is like quite interesting thing is that if you are writing stateless widget, your thing that you enter will remain static. If you if you wanted to change it, you won't be able to do it. Okay, so if you want to have some dynamic data, you will just create a stateful widget and you will pass a new class into it. Every time your data will be changed, the widget that you are passing here, you can see my home page state, I am creating a state for it. Okay, so every time my data will be changed, right now here it will have nothing, or it will have undefined or null, whatever you want to call it. I haven't experimented what this data contains. So even if a single change is made to data, you need to just set state of it, your whole component will be redrawn. So even if you are changing your data 120 times per second, it won't lag. It will still run as it is expected. Okay, so another thing, like as you can see, the styling stuff is like pretty weird, right? I am creating, oh, this is not the one I wanted to show. Okay, so I am creating a scaffold. In it has a app bar. App bar has its own action. So all the things you see here is pretty self-explanatory. Like app, what is the function of new app bar? It will create a new app bar for me. What is the function of title? It will give a title to my app bar. What is the function of text style? It will give style to my text. So there are countless amount of widgets which are already. The Flutter is still in alpha. Okay, so and another thing is, let me show you one more thing. Does anyone know about Hamilton? What is Hamilton? No one? Okay, so Hamilton is a very famous US musical. It is like been there in every major theater in US. What they generally do is they allow user to book tickets from here. They host lottery on this thing. As you can see, they give news over here. You can see. Okay, so this thing is made entirely on Flutter. Okay, so does anyone have like a older Micromax phone right now? Okay, so jokes apart, so this is like some simple things. Another thing that you see that how which kind of developer experience is Flutter providing you. So let me type a command. So right now, for the first time, what it will do, it will initialize Flutter, it will build my APK. It will take around like 10 to 15 seconds time to build all the things, and if some dependencies need to be changed, it will download them and manage it every time you run the Flutter run. Okay, so I think my Geo's allowance for today is over, so that's why it is running somewhat slow. So let's wait till it's finished. As you can see, I think it will take around a minute or two first time. Yes?
Use some component or widget.
Yeah.
Write some different codes. Then Flutter is how Flutter this manage this thing.
See, the way I think it, I don't know how it does stuff internally, because some of the stuff in Flutter I haven't discovered yet, because it's like I've started experimenting on it from like last month or two. So as you can see here, you will be pretty freaked out, right? Why is the size 21 MB? So it is a debug APK, don't worry about that. The pegged size of this app is 7 MB. Wait, I'm answering your question. So the way I think is they won't be shipping that code to iOS at all. So you don't need to download, because they have created all the widgets. The main aim was to create things from single code base.
Okay. Maybe they create unique widget for both the UI. Okay, thank you.
Yes?
I was asking, like you said, we do not have to create separate files. Like Flutter incorporates all, right? So suppose that some compute intensive work has to be done, and that is in a separate file, like we need to compile it using SDKs in Android. So how do you kind of integrate that into this?
See, it's not like that all the code will be in single file. If you are, suppose it's my home, after that there is some page for about, after that there is some page for reviews, you can create separate files for that. You just need to import them and add to routes. It's pretty much same as you do with JavaScript development.
Right. So nothing special has to be done about that. Like you just need to incorporate and compile. Flutter will manage it. You are trying to say that. Thank you.
Yes. It might be somewhat different for iOS, because iOS handles stuff somewhat differently from Android. So the method that you try to write API may be somewhat different, but I am pretty sure that it won't be like that you have to write two entirely separate functions for it. You may need to write somewhat code, some chunk of code to support some things in iOS, because you know Apple.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes.
We are creating with React Native. They will give a native app. With Flutter, they are giving a native app.
Go again.
With Ionic and PhoneGap, we create an app. They are giving a native apps. Web apps creating. And with React Native, they are giving native. With Flutter, they are giving native app or web apps.
See, I told you Flutter is a very special case while it comes to the native part, because none of the components you on screen are used from Android's native framework.
Okay.
All that things are being rendered as if it is being rendered while you are using Chrome.
Okay.
It's just a rendering example. I am not saying that it's a web app.
Okay.
It's just a rendering engine, which renders all your thing. Native path, and rest of the things can be managed by Flutter. If you want to use image from network, there is one widget that you need to use, it network.image.network, which will fetch your image from a URL and display it.
for multiple support for the multiple support screen. Multi-dimension. We are using XX and XXX images for the Android, and same for 2x and 3x for iPhone.
See, if you are fetching an image from like network, I don't think that you need to use all the separate class of images. You need to provide those things.
Not for the local images.
Yeah, you can provide those things.
Okay.
It's very simple thing.
So is it an interpreted or compiled? I mean, does it generate any bytecode or something after it is getting compiled or
See
built?
man, I haven't got that deep in Flutter. I haven't explored it that much, but I'm pretty sure that it's based on C, so it might be getting compiled to bytecode, which Sika can understand and draw stuff.
Yeah, because iOS and Android has different build system. So
Yeah, so I cannot show you iOS demo right now because I don't have a Mac. मैं गरीब हूँ थोड़ा. So like even building this pipeline in iOS is pretty much streamlined. You just need to configure your Xcode once to build the thing, and then rest of the stuff will be taken care by Xcode or Flutter.
thank you.
Yes.
Platforms tools are available. So
Right now only iOS and Android are available.
No, what I am saying, right? One is Flutter, one is React Native, one is as we all know, Ionic is there. So nowadays developers might be a confusion which platform I can choose or
See,
which
buddy,
type of application.
there is a pretty blunt answer to this question. You don't have to go by the stack. You need to see what the thing you need, what thing you have expertise at, and then you will develop. If your client is tasked with you developing project, you won't start exploring Flutter on first day. If you know Ionic, you will write it in Ionic and you will shape it, you will earn money, that's the end of it.
So let's say I want to start with cross-platform. So I have multiple choices. So which I can choose because I want to start.
See, if you want to start earning money right away, you can go with either React Native or Ionic based on your expertise. If you have developing expertise with Angular, you can easily be accommodated to Ionic because in the back of Ionic, you will need to use Angular too.
Okay. Thank you.
Explained it's a rendering engine. It renders everything on the screen in place of creating it. So will it be heavy on battery like the games are mostly?
Like you want to build games with Flutter?
No. I just want to ask. Like games are heavy on battery in place of apps. So will the apps made in this one would be heavy on battery?
Games are heavy on your phone because they are using 3D.
Yeah, but
that's why it is rendering. There is constant physics going on when you are doing something in game. And another thing, the most two popular platform for developing games on mobile is either Unity or either you go with Unreal Engine.
Yes, exactly. But as you said, it runs on 120 FPS. I was just confused about that. I mean, if it is rendering
120
that fast,
FPS mean anything on the screen can be redrawn 120 times a second.
not constantly, or does it updates regularly on, or when we do something?
If it doesn't need updating, it won't update.
Yeah, that's
if
that was the
something
main
is
question.
changing, then only it will update.
Okay.
It's like if you are going somewhere, you are stopping, then you will turn off your bike or car. Why will you keep it running? Okay, so that's it for today, guys.